I'm going to turn our sound on. There we go. I'll just watch for participants.
Thank you. Okay. And Commissioner Fiedler is not, I don't believe he's going to join us today. Okay. Good morning, everyone. It is February 21st, our regular meeting, second regular meeting of the month, 11 a.m., 11:01. I will open this public meeting, and if I could ask everyone to silence your cell phones and join me in a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence, that would be appreciated. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First on our agenda is the approval of the agenda. I would like to recommend a brief discussion addition at the beginning of our agenda. I think I intended to follow our OHE ordinance and have a first reading. It did not make it on the agenda, so I wanted to just discuss that and then reiterate, because those were our communications in the past, what our timeline would be. It's still meeting the required timeline for the consideration of an ordinance, but I'd like to just discuss the new dates for the community to anticipate.
Sure.
Okay, so
you want to add that before new business? Number one, the intergovernmental agreement.
Well, since Heath is here and I don't see community planning and development staff, maybe we can do that as number 2. Okay. And then we have one more set of minutes that is not listed, actually a couple. And I'd just like to get that housekeeping out of the way. So the minutes that were on our last agenda, I believe December 7th, 8th, and 14th were on the agenda, but we actually didn't make a motion to approve them. There were no changes identified by the board for those. And then special meeting minutes of December 30th, I'd like to just take care of as well, in addition to the minutes listed in our agenda.
So add in as number 2, a discussion on the new timeline and public hearing process for the OHV ordinance.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, sorry, the minutes for the December 7th, 8th, and 14th are on our agenda. The special meeting minutes for December 30th are not. So I guess really the only technical addition is for the 30th. But those are the
other stuff.
Oh, great. Okay. I will move to approve the agenda with the addition of the discussion of the OHV first reading, OHV ordinance first reading timeline, and the addition of the set of minutes for December 30th.
So moved.
Okay, and I'll second. Any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Hi, Commissioner Fiedler.
Morning.
Morning.
Aye.
Hi. We are going through, we're at just the approval of the agenda today. We've added a brief discussion on the OHV ordinance consideration and timeline. I didn't make it onto our agenda today, so I want to identify that and have a clear timeline discussion with land use planning and development staff if they're able to pop up here, but I can also give a brief overview. So we just approved the agenda with that additional minimal discussion, and then one more set of minutes. I'll go into community informational items. Commissioner Marcella?
I don't have anything today.
Okay, Commissioner Fiedler, do you have anything for us on community informational items?
None for me, thanks.
Okay. I I guess I'd like to just take a moment to kind of speak to and maybe give an update on a little bit of the assessor situation. We've been communicating with the assessor weekly via email and writing, and our last communication, we had gotten a lease for an office space. The Board of Commissioners is required to provide space for all departments and offices. We do that in the space that we offer at the courthouse here. Our intention of the discussion with the assessor is to give him a space for his individual office space for a certain time period, and expecting some sort of resolution in the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And I'll just share a proposed lease that we received was for a very large office space, and other communications that we've received gives us the impression that he is intending to kind of relocate the entirety of the office, including hundreds of thousands of dollars in software that we've invested in over the last few years across county departments for efficiencies. So continue to have challenging correspondences there and little resolve, but the board has maintained staff that is able to do work of the assessor under the treasurer, and we are continuing to work forward to complete necessary work for the state in communication with the assessor. I think that's all that I have. Any commissioner clarifications?
None for me, thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any clarifications?
None for me.
Okay, I have nothing either. Now we have public comments on items not on the agenda. Citizens wishing to speak on issues not on the agenda are requested to send a message in the chat if you are on Zoom, or raise your hand in the room. The chair will call on the public in order. Comment is limited to 3 minutes, not including board questions, if any, and action, if required, will be assigned to county staff. We've got a few people in the room, and Zoomers, if you want to indicate if you want to speak, we can get to you afterwards, but we'll start with the room. If you just state your name and address, please.
Yeah, of course.
That would be great. Thank you.
Noah Sossin, 314 West 8th Street. And this letter was submitted to the board ahead of time. Dear Lake County Board of County Commissioners, the Colorado Center on Law and Policy appreciates the opportunity to comment on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program enrollment in Lake County, along with organizational partners Lake County Build a Generation, Full Circle, Cloud City Conservation Center, and advocates of Lake County. We appreciate the BOCC holding a SNAP workshop for the community next week on February 28th and being transparent about its desire to improve upon SNAP processes. As you may know, CCLP released a report on the landscape of the SNAP appeals process across Colorado in the spring of 2022, and since then has been engaged with individual counties about SNAP access. We are particularly grateful for Lake County BOCC's willingness to have discussions about SNAP after having researched the low enrollment rates and some other more concerning issues in Lake County detailed more fully below. We hope this comment is the beginning of a more robust conversation that leads to improved SNAP utilization for Lake County residents and improved collaboration between community organizations and county workers. Number 1, low enrollment in SNAP benefits is a chronic problem in Lake County. For the past decade, Lake County SNAP enrollment rates have been well below the state and national average. Aside from an anomaly in 2015, SNAP enrollment in Lake County never exceeded 34% and dipped as low as 14.2% in 2018. What is perhaps more concerning is the disparity between SNAP eligible white and Latina households, which has only grown over time. For example, from 2020 to 2021, only 21% of Latina households who may have been eligible for SNAP reported participating in the program, compared with 58% of white households. From 21 to 22, Latina household participation dropped to 11% of households, while white household participation grew to 82%. 1A, national anti-immigrant rhetoric created distrust and fear for immigrant access to public benefits. Low enrollment in Lake County over the years has stemmed from a few concerning narratives. First is an overwhelming distrust in immigrant communities across the country after years of harsh anti-immigrant sentiment. As it relates to public benefits, the previous federal administration made a point of instilling fear in the immigrant community for even applying for benefits for which they were entitled. This harmful rhetoric at best created confusion among the states and at worst seeped into state administration of public benefits. What is desperately needed now is a rebuilding of trust that will require more than returning to the status quo. Lake County and counties across the state have an opportunity to shift the narrative and create an atmosphere that welcomes and supports all residents who are eligible for benefits. Doing so will necessarily require work beyond the minimal legal threshold requirements, and it will take collaboration with community organizations and community members to get there. 1B, the Latino population in Lake County faces additional barriers to obtaining benefits for which they are eligible. Relatedly, the second issue about low enrollment concerns Latina access to benefits, particularly monolingual Spanish speakers and mixed status households. Federal law requires that government entities administering public benefit programs have interpreters and materials translated into appropriate languages for the populations they serve. CCLP conducted interviews of several SNAP applicants or participants who reported that they did not receive notices or recertifications in their native language and could not conduct in-person meetings or interviews with DHS staff who spoke Spanish. We also heard concerning stories about the fact that Spanish voice mailbox was chronically full during the start of 2022, such that they were unable to get a hold of anyone at the DHS office.
Thank you.
Emily Olson, I live at 604 Dexter Street. With respect to mixed status households, there is at best a misunderstanding about what types of benefits mixed status families are eligible for, and the presumption has been that they are ineligible for all benefits. This is simply not true, as qualified non-citizens can be eligible for SNAP benefits. At worst, CCLP worries that there is an undercurrent of discrimination occurring against individuals because of their race and/or national origin. In particular, individuals reported getting threatened with deportation, and others stated that DHS refused to accurately change their citizenship status. The stories CCLP gathered range from one to almost 15 years ago. While incredibly disturbing, CCLP is interested in gathering more stories and data about current accessibility to public benefits, particularly given that data is difficult to obtain through the county and the state. As such, CCLP is collecting stories and gathering data directly from Lake County residents, and asks that residents who have experienced challenges in obtaining benefits fill out a survey, which we have prepared at the following link. 1C, public criminalization of public benefit applicants created a chilling effect. The second narrative is the hypercriminalization of accessing benefits, which has created a deterrent effect for eligible families. Beginning at least in 2016, the Lake County DHS shared with local news outlets that it had enough resources to fight fraud. Later that year, media began reporting on specific names of people in Leadville who had been charged with theft of public benefits, explaining that other investigations were ongoing and encouraging people to report on similar cases. In November 2016, local media published the names of 7 individuals who had been charged with crimes for accessing public benefits, and again encouraged readers to contact law enforcement to report public assistance fraud. By July 19, 2017, there was an admission that the public identification of prosecutions was meant to have the impact of discouraging folks, but people were still not always putting accurate information on their applications or disclosing all of the income that they are required to disclose. Notwithstanding the fact that fraud requires much more than just providing inaccurate information on an application, the real result of such publications was to deter eligible families from applying. Indeed, in an assessment done by a nonprofit social science consulting group, Omni, community members shared that the publicizing of fraud created a chilling effect and a fear in seeking benefits. These deterrent effects are long-lasting and again require meaningful re-engagement with the community. The criminalization.
Jenny Abbott, I live at 919 Diamond Street. The criminalization of accessing public assistance has manifested in other less public ways. CCLP heard a discouraging number of stories about the premature investigations that occurred for people attempting to enroll in programs like SNAP. Perhaps because Lake County is a small community, individuals were judged on their outward appearance of wealth through reputation or social media, rather than their actual eligibility. CCLP's understanding is that there was also a state audit done in the last 5 years of Lake County, which identified concerns about caseworkers investigating all applicants for fraud, including by checking their social media in order to save staff time later. While this approach might be appealing to counties, it is unlawful, and it exacerbated the chilling effect within the community. Post-SNAP enrollment is not just a problem for eligible families, but it also comes at a financial cost to Lake County. Specifically, SNAP can function as one of the most effective forms of economic stimulus during a downturn, because households spend their SNAP benefits quickly in the local economy, and every $1 in SNAP benefits helps generate between $1.50 and $1.80 in economic activity. As a result, Lake County has missed out on a minimum of $715,000 annually since 2016 due to low SNAP utilization. Additionally, eligible individuals who would normally use SNAP to meet their nutrition needs must also turn to food pantry assistance, which is more costly to operate. For the sake of the entire county, we encourage DHS and others to work with community organizations and members to improve enrollment numbers and increase trust. 2, potential solutions. CCLP, LC-BAG, Full Circle, C4, and ALC have brainstormed potential solutions for Lake County to continue down a path of increased SNAP enrollment that we hope can be incorporated into the SNAP workshop on February 28th. The following is a non-exhaustive list that we look forward to collaborating with the county to implement. 1, create a narrative shift and increase trust between the government and community members. 2, increase language access. 3, promote transparency and community input. And 4, adopt policies to self-regulate. The undersigned organizations appreciate the opportunity to publicly comment on SNAP enrollment in Lake County. Our interest in ensuring maximum access to food security is aligned with the BOCC, and we hope this is just the beginning of ongoing collaboration among the county, ourselves, and SNAP eligible community members. Thank you in advance for your time. Sincerely, CCLP, Full Circle Lake County Village Generation, Cloud City Conservation Center, and Advocates of Lake County.
All right. No, I do appreciate the letter and the information, and the footnotes in the letter as well, so that some of those issues have been corrected. I've tried to reach out to Hunger Free Colorado to ask them if they're coming on the 28th, but I haven't had a response from them. I've ordered the materials that they have from them, the max allotment that you can receive from Hunger Free Colorado, and asked about a partnership with them, but I have not had a response from them at this time. So just sharing on my part. I did also reach out to the state for a copy of the audit. Have not had a response on that yet either.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and we do have a few conversations scheduled coming up in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
With all interested stakeholders in the community. That will be public. Great. Any other public comment at this point? Online to get in detail.
Sure.
He just popped on.
Okay.
Online, do we have any public comment online that I haven't seen? Okay. You want to move to daily?
Sure, I can do that. Oh, there you go. Okay.
Okay, hearing no further public comment, either in the room or online. We will move on to our new business items. Sheriff, Anne, just, we've added you
Bye.
as
Thanks, you
number
guys.
2, if that's okay.
That's great.
All right, great, thank you. Okay, our first item of business is a consideration of an intergovernmental agreement, or an IGA, with the city of Leadville for mutual aid between the Lake County Sheriff's Office and the Leadville Police Department. The lead on this conversation will be Sheriff Stuckman. Since there's room, come on up and join us if you like.
Well, good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And just to know, I'm online. Sorry, I'm not there in person with you folks. So any comments or questions come up regarding this IGA, I'm available.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Perfect. Yeah, so I don't have the full history of this. I know it was dated back to prior to my time with when this was started. I think we're pretty close to getting this in place, and everybody seems pretty happy with where we're at now. So I won't read through the whole thing unless you guys want me to, but I'll just go over some key points.
Sure, key points is, yeah, fine.
Sounds good. Well, it's an intergovernmental agreement between the Leadville Police Department, City of Leadville, and Lake County Sheriff's Office. Just to try to make the most efficient and effective use of our powers and responsibilities between the city and the county. And it gives us the ability to assist each other with law enforcement services when needed. So it goes through defining assisting party, requesting party, officer in charge, and that's related to, in plain language, just if we need help, we're asking for help, they come out and help us, vice versa. This is mainly if requested by the requesting party, which is defined as the chief of police or the sheriff or the designee. Since a lot of our situations do require emergency responses, it would largely come down to whoever the officer in charge is for that situation. This also identifies who's responsible for insurance, pay, salaries, etc. And it all comes down to, it just stays with the responsibility of that agency. So if we're requesting any sort of help from Leadville Police Department, we're not saying that we're paying for any sort of their services at that point for that initial response. So that stays with that agencies, and again, vice versa, same for us if they're requesting our help from there. This agreement is set to expire at the end of this year. And then,
Can I ask you one question
Sure.
on that? Was there a conversation, or, and I'm sorry if I missed it, pulling up your notes on this too. Is there pretty much a like 1-to-1 ratio of that request that creates like that even kind of reciprocal mutual aid?
I don't have all those numbers
Yeah.
in front of me right now to say for the response aspect.
Okay.
So we're kind of looking at this two different ways. One would be just we need help. We're responding to a situation right now. Can you send an extra officer for us? The other one that's identified in the reimbursement category is more for shift coverage. So those would be two different numbers for us to look at.
Right, okay.
And that's what this agreement identifies, is gives us the rest of this calendar year to track that information.
Okay,
So as soon as possible in 2024, hopefully within that first month or so, we're able to sit down and go over all that information we're able to collect to say what those numbers actually look like.
okay, thank you.
From the reimbursement standpoint, it would be just for coverage of post-certified officers. For example, if there's a shift that's not covered by Leadville Police Department and they're requesting the Lake County Sheriff's Office to cover city calls for that 12-hour shift, then that would be something that we consider for reimbursement at that discussion.
Okay.
If it is something that we can come to a conclusion on, then this IGA identifies what that would look like again after December 31st of 2023. So it gives both agencies plenty of time to start collecting that information.
So you don't anticipate having that kind of compensation or like?
Not for this year.
But for this year, okay.
Well, it does discuss having that conversation in the beginning of 2024 to see if there would be any reimbursement for this year.
Okay.
And then if something's put in place, then we can talk about that at that point. There's a couple other things. Okay, so I know a little bit of the history was on the reimbursement side of things, and just some of the delays that we were receiving with collecting that information on what would be accurate for the reimbursement side of things. So we've kind of pushed that to the side. And what this agreement largely does for us for this year is it allows me to deputize Leadville police officers that are certified to work in the county if requested. So what's been done in the past was simply a swearing in, and then, if we need you, we'll call you. This identifies exactly what that looks like, which is something that I want to put in place before I start deputizing Leadville police officers to help us with the calls. So that's the big point of trying to get this pushed through as soon as possible, so they have that clear direction on what their responses are when they're requested from us. If there's any questions for me, or Chris, if you want to add anything to that.
No, just and as the commissioners probably recall, a lot of the backstory on this, as Heath mentioned, it started before his time, and during a process when both the sheriff's office and the PD were sorely understaffed, and Sheriff's Office was having to provide a lot of assistance in covering some of the calls and such with the police department. At this point in time, it's my understanding that both departments are, if not fully staffed, close to being so. So it's not that inequity that we experienced a year or so ago that would have counseled in favor of being reimbursed for a lot of the expenses that the sheriff's office was incurring as a result of responding to numerous calls and such. So it's kind of morphed into something that's more appropriate in a balanced relationship now going forward. And as Heath said, we'll have the opportunity at the end of this year to kind of look and see how balanced that actually worked out and whether or not there needs to be some sort of an arrangement for reimbursement of cost as they're incurred.
So the language is not finalized, and or what do you really need for us today, if anything?
Sorry, Heath, I'm sorry. I was just saying, my request would be, this is the latest iteration of the marked up draft, if you will, with a few tweaks and stuff to reflect Heath's request that the scope of aid and such be addressed in the agreement, so that it's not a situation where the police officers get deputized and suddenly believe that they have the full scope and authority of all the deputies at all times and such, that it's triggered only upon request and only specific to the scope of the request, the assistance that's being asked for. So there are some tweaks to it. Needless to say, it hasn't been reviewed by the city administrator or city attorney yet. So at this point in time, I don't know if it's ready for approval. Our experience with them in the past on this is we send it back to them and then they send it back to us with some changes and stuff. I don't know if they'll have any issues with the latest changes, just to further clarify what the scope of assistance would be. But, it may be just at this point in time to support us going on and sending it. If you had any comments, questions, concerns about this current iteration before we send it to them, so that I can at least represent that this is our proposed final version, if you will, in hopes that we can expedite getting it approved by city council as well.
Do you have any
No.
comments or questions?
No, I don't. I think it's pretty straightforward, really.
Okay. Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any comments or questions?
I just one question, I guess. Chris, you had flagged that section with a concern about sort of confidentiality of internal interviews, and I'm just wondering if there's a way, if you were going to work on some tighter language, or if we can just put a comma consistent with confidentiality requirements, or just that flag seemed good, and wondering what the proposed resolution was on that.
Well, I think I took that statement out. One of the reasons, because I think the one before it adequately covers in terms of when it says the parties will cooperate on this without having to go into more specific detail as to what that means. So if you feel, though, that we need to add, we need to keep that provision in, I'll certainly can add some language to qualify it under applicable law. But I hate to say, when it comes to confidentiality matters, sometimes the applicable law and how it's interpreted can be clear as mud. So, I just like to give us the flexibility to address those issues as they come up versus being too specific in the agreement on that issue.
Yeah, I think I guess I just sorry if I didn't take as much time as I should have to parse that comment, but I'd like the presumption to be that we would share as much as we can, not that we would share as little as we can, if you know what I mean.
Right.
Well, I presume some of that would be better ironed out in the scope of where those lines may be drawn between the assistance of folks that are not in each of the organizations.
Right, and that specific paragraph is identifying just internal investigations, not just the broad topic of everything. So those vary so much so that I think keeping it broad is the best approach.
Well, I would definitely, as one commissioner, support and appreciate the continuation of working on this with the city and the police department. Definitely appreciate kind of that measured approach too, and with a little bit of a luxury we have in being well-staffed and really monitoring the information that we're gathering together. It's really great to see that cooperation between the city and county. So thank you for bringing this to us
Yeah.
today.
You guys,
appreciate
any
it.
other questions or thoughts towards?
I don't think so. So Chris, do we wait to approve this once the city's legal has been able to review it?
Yeah, I'd much rather wait. What I'd like to do is if y'all don't have any further adjustments or whatever, to be able to represent to them that this is the final draft from the county, in hopes
Yeah.
that will help expedite them to get it in front of their decision makers quickly, and we can tee it up. My expectation would be to go on and obviously it's not going to be on their agenda for tomorrow, but to get it on their agenda as soon as possible, and to coordinate if city legal and administration comes back and says they're fine with the revisions and stuff, then we can coordinate getting it on the city council's agenda and your agenda in close proximity, so we can get it in place as soon as possible.
Quick question, so at one point I believe you had deputized some officers. Are there still officers deputized, or there are? Okay, and this would just clarify that
What they're deputized
with
for.
them,
correct,
okay,
In writing.
yeah, great, okay,
Well, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time.
thank
Thanks,
you.
Heath. We really appreciate it.
Okay, and so moving on to what we've added as a brief discussion, item 2. Again, kind of a background here, and feel free to stay or come up. The owl's got you though, wherever you are, I'm sure. All right, and we asked Anne to have a brief discussion. In our past conversations, we had mentioned the February 21st meeting as a meeting to potentially have that first reading of our ordinance. And so can we please go over the development of the language of that briefly, Anne, and then consider a definitive timeline for our process here.
So I have sent you in share file, I just brought some hard copies too. The cleanest version, we had, Chris, and I think you'll appreciate that, Chris, because this had been changed from a PDF into a Word document, and I think I cleaned it up much better in the newest one that I've sent over to you. It'll be much easier to look at, and if there are any edits, I think the things that I wanted to note specifically for Commissioner Fiedler, I have left the public use destination from home to a recreation area or wherever your OHV might be, and to a point of designation. I've left that with an emphasis on the difference between recreation and primary transportation appropriateness, that OHV shouldn't be serving those primary functions of transportation needs. But you had commented in our draft about, really wanting, I think that the road use guide work that we're going to be doing to really clarify that at our next iteration. So I just want to note that I still have where you gave some suggestions in there, but for now, just in this first initial iteration, keeping that similar to what it's been before. The other thing that you'll notice is that the GPS monitoring, temporarily it has been taken out again for this iteration, just to allow staff to do investigation and research into the best GPS systems. There's been a lot of, I think we've found some potential good programs. We also have had operators who have offered to help us research these and maybe even test them. So since at the timeline I'm going to propose today, we would not have those GPS units available yet, because we need to bring that proposal to the board along with the cost and the research that we found. So just that standard has been taken out of this iteration. So today being February 21st, What we've provided is the clean version of the draft after legal edits, some cleanup from the conversion of the document, as well as input that we've received thus far. We'd also propose to put this version on the website starting today in order to promote public engagement and look for comments and response on what we have so far on this iteration. And then the timeline that we would propose is the special meeting or request, a special meeting for February 28th for the first reading by reference of title. And then we would look to send the, hopefully within the next week, if we have any final edits, comments that we've received that might change or direct the ordinance a bit, we would have that in time to send it to the Herald on March 2nd. That would be the date that we would send. We would direct it to be advertised for 2 weeks. The first day of the notice publication then would hit March 9th. And then we'd ask for reading for adoption of the ordinance on March 21st with during the board's regular meeting and an effective date of April 9th. So just to back up just a little bit, statute requires us to notice in the newspaper for 10 days, and the effective date is 30 days from the first day of the publication.
Okay.
So the first day of publication would be March 9th. That would make our effective date March 9th. Exactly. Actually, it makes it March 8th. Excuse me. Yeah, March 8th, which is a Saturday. But that would be our.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, April.
So the
April
21st is spring break, and as long as nobody has plans.
Oh,
March 21st.
okay.
I don't.
Okay.
I
I will be here, but I just want to make sure,
Yeah.
Jeff, that's on your radar in case you guys have anything planned for spring break. Just throwing that out there.
Commissioner Fiedler, does that timeline work for you as best that you can tell right now?
Yeah, that timeline sounds good. I did have one suggestion. I mean, just for posting the ordinance, and I appreciate you flagging areas that are going to be, have some work to do. And I'm just wondering if when this goes up for public comment or notice, if there's what the appropriate way is to let the public know what you just said. I don't know if there's a way in a narrative, before the posting or like a comment in the document that those 2 or 3 areas where more work will be done. Because I'm putting myself in the shoes of someone who hasn't been following all these work sessions, and they just won't know that unless we say that this is going to be kind of a phased body of work.
Great comment, Jeff. And so what I would propose to do on our website is to work with staff and what we would do is we would have a link to the ordinance, but then also I think like a memo that just outlines, because some people enjoy reading ordinance language, but one that kind of summarizes the ordinance itself as well as what the process is, outlines the timeline, and then also talks about that there will be an eventual second iteration of the ordinance that outlines the work of the moratorium. And so I think that we'll have a portion of our website that has the moratorium and a memo that explains that, the ordinance, and a memo that explains that, along with the timelines.
Okay.
That'd be good, and then similar to what we did for the budget, having the public comment go to whoever it names from. To you.
Thanks, you guys.
Great.
Okay, so what time on February 28th?
I would suggest 11 o'clock to, we do have a work session scheduled that day. I believe it starts at 1.
Yes. Well, as
So
this to our calendars.
I was going to suggest 11. That kind of matches with our regular timing.
It's great.
Sorry, Steve, we aren't taking comment on the item, but if you have things to share, after the meeting, please do.
Okay.
Okay. Great. Any other questions or comments from the commissioners to or from staff?
No, I don't have anything.
All right,
Look at that, I just put that on our calendar for Tuesday at 11.
excellent. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Anne.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that. Okay. We'll get back to the new business items. Now, agenda item number 3, the consideration of the ground ambulance licensing for St. Vincent's Hospital EMS ambulances. And we have the director, Jeremiah Grantham, here with us.
And
Hi. And
can come up
Tim
if
Bergman
you
to
want.
speak to this.
So I just need ambulance license for the service and permits for the vehicles for 2023. When Patty was the clerk, I used to bring her the inspection reports for the ambulances, and she would give me license and permits. When I talked to Ms. Tracy about it, she thought it was back on the commissioners, so it was just a question of what it was. I know Chris found something from 1992 saying that it was delegated to the clerk's office, so I just need licenses and permits.
Did you get your vehicles registered?
What's that?
Did you
Yes.
get them?
Yes.
Was that missing before? Okay.
That was really small. I just haven't done. Get
Okay.
that worked out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Comment from county legal. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, well, and just yesterday I was researching this and found a resolution back from 1992 that establishing between the county and the St. Vincent's for establishing the ambulance service. In the first paragraph, that essentially assigns to the clerk's office the permitting process for the ambulance service. So that just to close that gap. And I didn't find anything more recent than 1992 changing that. So Tracy, if you happen to come across something different, let me know. Or if you feel like we need to do a new resolution to address this going forward, let me know, and I'll be happy to work with you to get that in place.
Okay.
Okay. So it sounds like just clarifying all of that, and maybe you have now the pieces necessary for the licensing to work with the clerk. Okay. Can I also take the opportunity to just say, I would love, I don't know if you, how much conversation has continued between Tim, the manager, and the hospital, or you all, but I would love to set up a work session sooner than later on all other items
Yep.
in operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
We may have to wait until the report comes back from that panel that just happened.
Okay.
It may be more beneficial when we get the recommendations,
Okay.
if that's more what you're looking for.
Sure.
If there's something else, we can do it beforehand by all means, but
Sure. What do you have an anticipated timeline of that?
I think March 16th is when they're looking to put that out, or at least be back up here. I'm not exactly sure yet. They're looking with their lawyer to see what their lawyer can do and be there for. But I think that's when they're looking to put out that report so that everybody can get it at the same time.
Okay.
But I have not had a confirmation on that yet.
Okay. And then there was a 2019 report or plan,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Do you know what the title of that is?
I don't, it was
Okay.
as something consultative visit, something, but I have it if you want it.
Yeah, would you
Yeah.
send that to
That'd be
us
great.
so that we can review that
Yeah,
again?
it used to be posted on the website, and then somewhere in 2021, when we revamped the website, they were like, no, we don't need that anymore.
Okay,
But I have a copy I can send you.
that'd be
Okay.
great.
Yep.
And I would love for us to review that kind of sooner than later, and,
Yeah.
and maybe we just schedule some additional conversations based on kind of that information
Yeah.
and wait for that report and March 16th, but,
Yeah, I'm available however you guys want to do it.
okay, well, that would be great.
I put that reminder on the calendar.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
And then the report, do you think that it's meant to address various items, the financing and or operating structure?
I'm sure something will be said about it. The whole purpose is what options do we have, and what is the best option to move the ambulance service if we had to.
Okay,
That's gonna be the main purpose of this report, is looking at what those options are, what the best option is, what second best option is, and in that order.
okay,
But I'm sure something will be mentioned about operation, finances, things like that as well. They've been looking at all of that. Kelly finally got that to them like 3 days before they were here.
okay,
So that all came together. Since there's something we mentioned about it, but really that report is just looking at what options do we have and what is the best option for moving the ambulance service if the hospital either can no longer support it or is no longer there.
Okay. So like a continuity of operations
Yeah.
plan.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was the entire reason for them being here in the first place.
Okay.
Was just, giving us answers on what we can and can't do, should and shouldn't do.
Right, right. Yeah, and in my particular interview, I know they asked a bit about the existing agreement between the county and the ambulance service, and seemed to be moving towards potentially asking the county of more funds, and I had sent a response after my interview, just kind of having contemplated,
Sure.
marinated on that for a little bit after my conversation, and I think the, but at least at this point, for the longevity of the hospital district and probably ambulance service operations, so I think I hope it's clear that we are willing to have that conversation of where the ambulance service could be housed
Oh, absolutely,
and function most beneficially for the
Yeah.
community. But I think part of those financing conversations are going to include, just looking at that kind of long-term plan for the ambulance district as a district, and
Sure.
kind of repairing the trust and communications in the community so that the ambulance district can pursue their own ballot measures and levying mills, rather than continuing to come back to the county.
Sure,
But
absolutely.
all part of the conversations to be had.
Yep, works for me. So yeah, if you guys want to have a meeting before that 16th date, that's fine with me. I'm available whenever for you.
Okay.
But if you want to after, so we have those options as well, however you want to work it.
Okay.
Just let me know with me. And thank you all for being a part of that, Tim as well, for being part of that panel. They were very happy with the turnout with that, and
Great.
the answers they got and how much information they got. It worked really well.
Great.
Well,
Well,
thanks.
thanks for being here.
Of
You
course.
guys can settle up the licensing and we'll get that 2019 report from you.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
Hey,
Thanks,
Sid,
Jane.
Oh,
I
sorry.
just had a question on so
Yes.
on the licensing, I was looking over the old resolution, and I'm just wondering if, not to delay getting things done, with the permitting, but I'm just wondering if that does need to be updated. I assume in the last 30 years, there have been new statutes that should be referenced and all that.
Tell them about how the changes nature.
Oh, yeah, to answer your question, currently, yes, there have been plenty of changes since 1992 on ground ambulance licensing. It also will change next year to where the county is still responsible for doing it, but the state will be overseeing it. So it will change completely again next year as well. So we may just want to wait until next year to do that, so that we're current next year and not have to change it this year and next year. But again, we can do that however you guys feel is best.
Do you have an updated permit for 2023?
That's what I need.
This is 2022.
Correct, I need the 2023 ones. That's what I'm looking for.
Okay.
I have not gotten ones for 2023.
I
that
can't
comes
sign
from-
this just for 2022.
No, I know, that's what Patty gave me last year. I haven't received anything else since then.
So you just want us to make a copy of this for 2023?
I just need new permits and licenses for 2023 that were issued out of your office.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, those are just examples of what Patty gave me for last year. I've not received anything for 2023 this year. Those would have to be issued from you. Cool.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like that 1992 licensing resolution should be updated. Since we're moving forward with this for this year, we'll take, I think we'll take the year to review and make changes at the end of the year for next year.
And I'm in meetings that are looking at, it shouldn't go into effect until I believe June 2024.
But the language and requirements should be.
Correct, and those are all being worked out right now. It's not even finalized yet.
Okay.
And there's meetings at least twice a month or once a month on that at the state level.
Okay.
So once that's finalized, I can get that to you and show you where to find it, and we can go from there. But I think if we can just get this done now, we might as well wait till next year to completely rewrite the process.
Okay,
Okay.
As
all
long
right.
as that works for all of you.
I think that should work.
Thank you, Tracy. Let me know whatever you need.
Yeah, no, that's all we needed was that resolution showing that I had the right
Sure.
to sign that.
Absolutely. Works for me. Well, we all get it worked out.
Okay,
Thank you all.
great. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, moving on, next on the list, we have a consideration of information technology policies related to protected health information and data protection. And this is led by our IT and Innovation Director, Greg Berry. Thanks, Greg.
Thank you for. Excuse me. So unfortunately, I only have one copy of.
That's okay.
We
I
have them in
You
our,
have them digital?
yep, in our, yep.
So
Do you
the-
need that copy?
No. no.
Okay.
So the data protection policy establishes appropriate responsibility for the management and protection of Lake County data as an organizational asset. All Lake County employees and elected officials share in the responsibility for ensuring that Lake County's information assets receive an appropriate level of protection. Data classification in the context of information security is a classification of data based on its level of sensitivity and the impact to Lake County should that data be disclosed, altered, or destroyed without authorization. Lake County's data classification category schema is designed to account for level of sensitivity, operational value, and criticality, as well as the potential adverse operational impact in the event of a security incident involving Lake County data. In order to mitigate the risk of disclosure or tampering with Lake County information assets through Lake County assets through interception, loss, or theft of data or equipment, Lake County shall deploy appropriate cryptographic security controls in conjunction with procedures that manage the associated encryption keys. Lake County is committed to maintaining formal systems for responding to an emergency or other occurrence that damages systems containing Lake County data. The county has developed the data backup and restoration policy to document backup and restoration planning requirements. That policy has not been adopted as of yet, but that will be coming. In order to ensure the availability of Lake County documents and data, Lake County has established data retention and destruction standards as set forth in the data protection policy. So basically the reason we're pushing this policy right now is the Department of Human Services needs this policy to be enacted to meet certain grant funding.
And most of this language came from the state. I think this was in our past discussions on this to direct you to move forward and do this work. So we got a majority of this from the state, and then you're creating those policies specific.
Right,
to our
DHS contracted Torchlight to write the basic general policies. Chris Lloyd and myself have gone through all of these policies and edited them to more accurately represent Lake County.
Okay.
I am just scanning through this again, and there's some just formatting things that I don't know if I meant, like this here, like a list that's either not populated or shouldn't be there.
That's strange, they're there on
They're Phil?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will have to look to see why those did not.
And like
Are you
here,
talking about
like it, like references
Data-
section
like data-
4.
classification standards or whatever? Mine is blank under there. It's got like 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it's
Like
Yeah.
here, so maybe it's
Okay.
just the link that we got, but I would just suggest looking through that.
Yeah, I will look through that and find out why that zeroed out
Yes.
on there, and I will send you the information on there.
Okay.
okay. Chris, there's not any reason for us to not adopt this because it's been reviewed by legal?
No, and that's, and I reviewed the draft that Greg provided again, and besides those couple of little tweaks that I think Sarah pointed out in what was sent, then I didn't see any issues, and it seems consistent with what was teed up previously.
Okay, and then is there a plan to implement this and get this out to all staff? Okay.
Does anything have to be referenced specifically for DHS? Or we just have to
No,
adopt
this particular issue is related to public health information and that we have IT policies protecting public health information. So I know they were keenly awaiting the signature of the IT policies. I'm hoping that by submitting this one in particular, we'll be able to meet that requirement on the management evaluation, but I know they'll also be looking for the round of the final ones to come to. And HICPUP did also approve these policies that were submitted by Torchlight as part of our grant project, but while they were waiting for is assigned version, the version that you all have sent. So it's all thumbs up from their angle. It's just another of like, it's official.
Okay. All right, Commissioner Fiedler, do you have any questions for Greg?
Nope, that all sounded good.
All right. So I'm doing a motion. Sure. I will make a motion that we approve the information technology policies related to protected health information and data protection.
I can second.
All right, is there any further discussion?
No, just thanks for doing this.
Yeah,
Of course.
all right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
I
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Last on our new business items, we have consideration of a modification for liquor license at Safeway 2824. And this is, yeah, liquor license modification. Oh wait, this is not the last thing on our agenda, sorry.
It looks like it's just a simple modification to extend their square footage for displaying liquor. They're not doing any major modification.
Okay. I finally did a little more digging into this, which is maybe something we can work on in our new roles together. But I pulled up the 2022 Colorado Liquor Licensing Handbook and pulled a couple things out of section 3 and 4. I'm curious if this is a level of monitoring and investigation at the state once the local licensing level either makes a decision, but there's in section 3, it addresses multiple license locations. It says licensees are generally allowed to hold an unlimited number of licenses within the same tier. However, retail liquor store and liquor license, drugstore licenses, which I think that Safeway is that, may only obtain additional license location based on the phase-in schedule in the table 7 provided in that handbook. And so I don't know if you remember receiving any information on like whether or not this meets the threshold. I never remember hearing anything supplied to us.
They don't have anyone representing them here either, so.
Yeah.
Commissioner Budge, I was gonna say, I
yes.
raised my hand because I looked into that as well. And so the bill that was passed in 2022 allowing them to also sell wine effectively converted their existing license into one that included wine. So they did it. This isn't really a new application. That's why it's styled as a modification. And so it's not like they're getting a new license in order to sell the wine. It's just extending the current license they had by virtue of the legislation that passed to cover the wine. So that's why this is just what they've applied for in their previous application, the diagrams, they, as part of the application, they have to show where the displays are going to be in that type of thing. So all they're doing through this application is modifying their display area and asking for approval of that. I looked at that because I also looked at it with County Manager Bergman in terms of the impact that this might have on our local Safeways, food resources, if you will, because it is taking away display area that has previously been used for food resources instead of alcohol beverages. So But again, because it's not a new license, it's just the conversion of their existing license, I wasn't able to find anything that would provide the county with a basis to essentially question this modification beyond, I guess, what you would otherwise do with that. For example, if, and I don't know if we ever get like the fire marshal looking at stuff, but if this were a situation where somebody were looking to add a new row in that same area, that could potentially create some sort of a traffic flow issue, if you will, with pedestrians in and out, ingress, egress, that type of thing that would meet code for the width of the areas and stuff, then I think we'd want to take a closer look. But this is just essentially converting existing food display areas to wine display areas. And and I'm sorry there isn't anybody from Safeway online with us today, because one of the questions I was going to suggest would be how they plan to accommodate those other food displays with the existing stuff they have.
Could we potentially table this until we get those answers? Because, I mean, there's so much access to substance and substance abuse and those kinds of things, and this just increases that access. And without a plan to talk about what they may or may not have in Safeway anymore, for us to communicate that to our community, I just don't feel comfortable not having anyone here to answer those questions. And I would feel comfortable tabling this until we understand that, and until that's communicated to our community. We have issues with food access anyway, and paring down that, especially in the produce section. I mean, I just have so many questions. So
Yeah, to be honest, and looking at this, what's outlined in the handbook, the off-premise retail radius restrictions, there's, new retail liquor store, liquor license, drugstore license may not be issued if the premise is located within 1,500 feet of another off-premise retail license, or within 3,000 feet of another off-premise retail license if located within a municipality with a population of 10,000 or less. Some of the other considerations are the desires of adult inhabitants in the neighborhood and the effect on competition in certain cases. So I know you've explained how this is not a new license and it's a modification, and so the modification is really based on some physical criteria, I suppose, in the store. I'm also comfortable tabling. I was honestly considering denying, but if we can't deny the license, I'm curious. Well, two things with tabling. When did we actually get it? Because I think we're required to consider it within 30 days of receiving it.
February 10th.
February 10th. Okay, so we have time. And then, so we can ask Safeway to come and address that. And then I'm curious, does it have in here when their renewal is up? Their license is up for renewal?
I didn't see it on the application itself.
Yeah, I thought there was something in there as to what the period of their current license covers.
Because I think that, we could continue this conversation in anticipation of a license renewal. I will say on the flip side too, I'm also very curious to have conversations with Safeway, and to learn, are the sales of alcohol helping to even keep the store open or make, there are ways that like revenue and can justify and help the operations of the store, but I think it'd be really helpful to have those conversations with Safeway administration.
Can we table to our first meeting in March and ask that they come to talk to us about that?
Yeah, I think that would fulfill that 30-day.
Yeah, because February has 28 days.
Right. All right. Well, let's
What, not March 7th?
yeah, that would be our first regular meeting. Okay, table to March 7th. And I suppose actually, I'm sorry, I don't think we've followed necessarily the right process to open the hearing on this either. If there's anybody in the public to comment. So I will open the hearing on the modification of the Safeway liquor license at 12:06. And having made our comments and some deliberation and deciding to table this and reach out to Safeway, I'll ask if there's any comments in the public on the license.
Yeah, I wasn't, I'm almost alcohol free, I mean,
You state your name for the
I'm
record.
Steve Prestash. I've never really been a drinker. I can see how it has such a destructive effect on some people's lives. And to showcase this in the store where we used to have the peanut butter and jelly, I don't know, it just seems kind of offbeat. If the store is going to close, and this would be something that you brought up that would make a difference, well, then maybe we could figure something else out, but, and maybe facilitate some aspect of this, but I'm 100% against expanding that alcohol venue there than what they already have. I'd like to see the jelly and the peanut butter back there.
Thank you, Steve. I'm not even sure where to find the peanut butter. Don't know where it is, and I need some. Okay, thank you for the comment. Any other public comment? I think I will not close the public hearing, but leave it open through March 7th. And then we'll reach out and try to organize those folks from Safeway to join us at that meeting.
You have an official motion.
To table?
I will make a motion that we table the consideration of the liquor license for Safeway store 2824, the modification of the liquor license for Safeway 2824, until our first meeting in March, and continue the public hearing until that date.
I'll second.
All right, any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
All right, hearing nothing more, all those in favor? Aye.
Hi,
Aye.
Great, okay.
thank you. Thanks,
Thank you very
Tracy.
much. All right, last on our agenda now, number 6, since we added something. Consideration of the contract with Value West for commercial appraisal services. Tim, or would you like to?
Sure, or Chris and I, so in the past, the assessor's office has contracted with Value West. We do not have a person with commercial appraisal skill set or licensure on staff. So we've contracted this service out in the past. Despite repeated requests to the elected assessor, he's never responded about this contract, but it's something that the assessor's office needs to assess commercial property in Lake County.
And this is, I mean, we've had an engagement with them over as long as I can remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's about is that about a $2,500 cost? Okay, okay.
Chris, do you know the dollar amount?
No, it's substantially more than that.
Is it?
Stephanie, I know you're there. Is Stephanie still there in the back too? Because
It's about 2,300 a month.
yeah, 20 a month. Yeah,
Yeah,
per
so
month.
they,
For the collection period time, or is it all year?
all year.
This
They
year.
were- Yeah, they just upped their rate, so it went from 2,200 to a little over 2,300.
Okay, okay. Sorry. Good. Right.
But I did, my apologies again. The agreement that's proposed is our standard professional services agreement, which they have already signed off on. So it's just the attachment of their scope of work to that as the Exhibit A. So they didn't request any changes to our standard professional services agreement.
Okay. I don't have any other questions on this. Something that I had brought up to Tim, we had discussed in some of our economic development conversations of including, and the housing conversations of county land, including all of that, but I understand we're kind of doing that internally. So we don't have to add that to the scope of Value West. That scope will largely remain the same as it always has been. Okay. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the contract with Value West.
So moved.
Second,
Right, is there any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
done for me.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Great, and that concludes our new business. I will entertain a motion to approve bills and payroll for pay period ending February 10th, 2023.
So moved.
Second, I'll second. Any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
Okay, hearing none, all those in favor? Aye.
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 Great, and then we have the minutes with the addition of a set from December 30th. The set that was given to us for our last meeting, or the 3 sets here, December 7th, 8th, and 14th, I don't think any of us had any suggested changes. So I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes for December 7th meeting, December 8th, and December 14th.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, if there's no further discussion,
None for me, thank you.
none for me.
all those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, and then the minutes sent to us had restrictions, so I couldn't add track changes, but I do have some notes on the special meeting on December 30th. I think it is correct, but the G-Works is the correct.
It's the new name,
It's the new name from PubWorks.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
just couldn't find that in my notes, wanted to make sure. And then the item number 3 on that December 30th, regarding the new transportation requirements, we read into the record resolution 2234. Did we actually act on it, or did we kind of have more of a discussion about having to, it was like licensing requirements, or some transportation safety. I didn't have in my notes whether we acted on that resolution to kind of further pursue in compliance with the new state regulations. Chris, do you remember this?
Is this for the mental health
Oh, thank you, yes,
transportation?
okay, cool.
Yes,
All right,
sorry.
no, you're good. Yes, we did act on that because only, it only applies to the EMS services, and if Jeremiah uses the Ford Explorer for behavioral health transfers. Otherwise, it doesn't apply to your standard ambulance, the law enforcement, and the community. There's one other one, but yeah, so you did take action on that.
Okay. I didn't have time to
Chris
listen to the
drafted it
recording.
based on the Archuleta model.
Yes. yeah.
Okay, great, so that should be accurate then. And then in item number 4, Tracy, there's just a really, like at the last bit of it, coming out of executive session, it's just listed before the vote that we adjourn the meeting, so I'll just swap those. Does that make sense? It lists that we adjourn the meeting before it says what the vote was.
Oh, so like the
So
vote.
just
and then
like
the
put the
adjournment.
vote and then the adjournment. Here. It's right here at the end there. It says we adjourned and then it just says all voted in favor. So I was just,
Oh, that we voted in favor
You
to
voted
adjourn.
to adjourn.
I have to go back to the recording.
I don't think it's a vote to adjourn because the motion to authorize the county manager and the county attorney to follow up on pending claims.
Oh,
And then it just
yeah,
said,
you're right.
so it just,
Yeah, it needs to be
I mean,
swapped.
it's just a really simple change. So that's the only substantive change on the December 30th.
So that was February 7th.
And that was December 30th, the special meeting.
Oh, that wasn't me. Yeah. I'll change it.
Okay,
I'll change it for you.
Okay. So with that, just with that very small kind of rearranging of the actions that happened there at the end of those minutes, I'll entertain an approval for the December 30th meeting minutes.
So moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I will second.
Sorry, slow on the mute
That's
button.
okay. That's okay.
Okay.
How about I just second them?
Okay.
Moving forward, and if is there any further discussion?
None for me, thank you.
None for me.
Okay, hearing no more, all those in favor, aye.
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 Great. And then, shoot, I did have, so there was another set of meeting minutes I forgot to mention in the beginning of the meeting for October 14th, and that was the meeting where we opened up the preliminary budget. Are we comfortable entertaining? I have no changes for that. It's just opening up that hearing
Okay.
and keeping it open until the adoption of the budget on December 15th of last year. Commissioner Philly, do you have a problem considering the October 14th meeting minutes?
No, that's good.
Okay, and so I don't have any changes on that. Did you have any changes for that?
No.
Commissioner Fiedler, any?
No, that's
No.
good.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the special meeting on October 14th, 2022.
So moved.
I'll second. Any further discussion?
None for me.
All right, all those in favor, aye.
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 Okay, and then we have the February sets. And, okay, so on the regular meeting of February 7th, Tracy, just the community informational items have the regional housing authority listed as the rural housing authority. So just change that from rural to regional. Christian's last name is not in there, so enter the Luna Leal on whatever copies we got. And then Trevor Dillon's comments, it says non-OP. I think maybe his comment was, you might have to listen to the recording, meant to make a statement that he didn't think it should apply to non-motorized vehicles. So maybe just clarifying that.
Yeah, I'll have to listen. I haven't listened to them.
Okay. Let's see, if we could, so it does state that the resolutions, we had items for that rezone as item 10, but it only, in the minutes, it only really says that the one file was tabled. So can we list all those, the 3 files that were meant to be tabled?
The resolution.
The table of uses file that we failed to put on that agenda, which had to happen first. And I'm sorry, Tracy, I don't have the resolution numbers.
I don't either, to include the animal shelter, right?
Right, and to include animal shelter and commercial industrial use. So if we could just refer to all 3 of those files and resolution numbers, that table of use change, the 428 East 12th, which is listed, and also the 500 East 12th, which is not noted.
Okay.
That would be great. Let's see. And then I think at the end, the specific motion is not recorded for item 14. And I am sorry, I didn't have time to listen to that recording. But those will have to be inserted. The motion was made coming out of executive session on the manager's annual review, and I believe it was something to the effect of directing the board chair to work with the manager and legal to execute the contract. I don't have the exact language.
I'll go back and
Okay.
listen to
Okay, thank you. And then the February special meeting on February 7th, or sorry, February 9th. I don't have any changes to the minutes as they are submitted, except that the date of February 7th is on there. So if you could change that to February 9th, that would be all the comments that I have for February, the 2 February sets.
I don't have anything to add.
Commissioner Fiedler, anything else to add for those two February sets of minutes?
No, nothing for me.
Okay, so with the changes discussed, I'll entertain a motion to include the changes discussed.
I will make a motion that we approve February 7th and 9th meeting minutes with the changes as discussed.
A second?
All right, any further discussion?
None for me.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay, great. I think that concludes our meeting. I'll open up for any other public comment at the end of the meeting. Any other public comment? Okay. Okay. Hearing none, we will adjourn at 12:22. Thank you, everyone.
Sorry.